Let me start by saying something that might make you uncomfortable, but it will set you free. Love is not proven by how much you sacrifice yourself. Love is revealed by how much respect exists when you stop overgiving. Too many women have been taught that if they love harder, stay longer, and give more, a man will eventually see their value. But that belief has cost them peace, confidence, and time. Here is the truth. A man does not decide to commit because a woman is always there. He commits when he realizes what life feels like without her. That realization does not come through chasing, explaining, or waiting patiently. It comes through distance. Intentional, self-respecting distance. Distance is not rejection. It is not punishment. It is clarity. It is the space where a man's intentions are exposed and a woman's self-worth is restored. When you create distance the right way, you stop auditioning for love and start attracting commitment. You stop asking to be chosen and start being recognized. Tonight, we are not talking about games or manipulation. We are talking about emotional intelligence, about knowing when to step back instead of leaning in, about understanding that your presence is powerful and your absence can be even more powerful when it is rooted in self-respect. This message is for the woman who is tired of being almost chosen, tired of waiting for consistency, tired of giving wife-level energy to someone who hasn't earned it. If you are ready to stop chasing clarity and start commanding respect, then listen closely. Because when distance is created with dignity, a man stops seeing you as optional and starts seeing you as his wife. Men don't recognize value in constant access. Let me tell you something real, something honest, something most people are scared to say out loud. Men are not wired to recognize value through constant availability. That doesn't make them bad men. It makes them human. Value in the human mind is closely tied to effort, anticipation, and the possibility of loss. When something is always there, always reachable, always guaranteed, the mind stops labeling it as special. It becomes familiar, and familiarity slowly turns into comfort. Comfort feels good, but comfort does not create urgency. And without urgency, commitment does not grow. Many women believe that being present all the time proves loyalty, love, and seriousness. So they answer every call, reply to every message, instantly adjust their schedule, overlook disrespect, and stay emotionally available no matter how inconsistent the man becomes. The intention is pure, but the result is misunderstood. To a man, constant access sends a silent message that says, "You don't have to earn me. I'll be here regardless." And once a man believes access is guaranteed, his effort naturally decreases. Not because he doesn't care, but because his brain no longer senses risk. Here is the hard truth: men are motivated by challenge. Not chaos, not drama, not manipulation, but challenge. Challenge activates focus. It sharpens awareness. It forces evaluation. When access is limited, the mind pays closer attention. When access is unlimited, the mind relaxes, and relaxed minds do not fight to keep what they already believe they have. A man begins to recognize value the moment he feels contrast. Contrast between having you and not having you. Contrast between your presence and your absence. When you are always available, there is no contrast. There is no space for reflection, no space for longing, no space for realization. He doesn't sit and think about what you bring into his life because he is still receiving it effortlessly. But the moment access changes, the moment your energy is no longer on demand, something shifts internally. His mind starts asking questions instead of assuming answers. This is where many women get it wrong. They think pulling back means being cold, angry, or emotionally withdrawn. It doesn't. It means removing excess access while keeping dignity. It means not being on call emotionally. It means not filling every silence with reassurance. It means not over-explaining your value. Because real value never has to announce itself. It is felt most clearly when it is missing. Men do not sit down and logically list your qualities when you are constantly around. They feel your value when your presence is no longer automatic. Absence forces emotional inventory. It makes him reflect on how you made him feel, how you supported him, how you showed up, how you brought peace into his life. And peace, once gone, is deeply missed. But peace must be absent before it can be appreciated. Constant access also removes the opportunity for a man to step up. When a woman is always there, she unknowingly carries the emotional responsibility of the relationship. She becomes the initiator, the fixer, the stabilizer. And when that happens, the man never has to grow into leadership. Distance rebalances energy. It hands responsibility back to him. It gives him the space to pursue, to miss, to choose. And a man values most what he chooses, not what is handed to him. The woman who understands this does not disappear to play games. She simply stops overgiving. She stops probing. She stops auditioning for commitment. She allows her presence to become something that must be earned, respected, and protected. And in doing so, she teaches the man how to treat her without ever giving a speech. When access is constant, value becomes invisible. When access is intentional, value becomes undeniable. A man may enjoy attention, but he commits to what he respects. And respect is born the moment he realizes that access to you is not automatic, guaranteed, or unconditional. That realization is the first step towards seeing you not as convenience, but as priority, not as option, but as woman worthy of commitment. Distance forces a man to feel your absence. Let me tell you something most women don't realize until it's too late. Men do not process loss the same way women do. A woman feels the absence immediately. She feels it in her chest, in her thoughts, in the quiet moments of the day. A man, on the other hand, often feels relief first, relief from expectations, from emotional responsibility, from having to show up consistently. And that initial relief tricks women into thinking he doesn't care. But that relief is temporary. What comes after it is far more powerful, and it only happens through distance. When you are constantly present, a man never has to sit with the emotional weight of missing you. Your messages, your check-ins, your availability soften the impact of separation. You become a familiar background sound in his life instead of a presence he has to consciously choose. Distance removes the buffer. It removes the emotional cushioning that protects him from realizing what you actually mean to him. And once that cushion is gone, absence starts to speak louder than words ever could. A man begins to feel your absence not when you announce it, not when you threaten to leave, and not when you demand clarity. He feels it when the routines change, when the phone stays quiet, when the day passes without your energy woven into it. That silence does something to him. It creates space, and in that space, his mind starts replaying moments he once took for granted. Conversations, laughter, support, encouragement. Absence turns memories into emotional reminders. This is where time becomes your ally. Men often need time alone to process emotion. They don't sit and analyze feelings the way women do. They experience emotion through realization, not discussion. Distance gives him the room to realize what life feels like without you. And that realization cannot be rushed. The more you try to speed it up with messages or emotional explanations, the more you delay the process. When your presence is removed, he starts to compare. He compares the peace he had with you to the silence he feels now. He compares the connection he felt with you to the emptiness of distraction. He compares your consistency to the instability of temporary attention. And that comparison is where attachment deepens. Because now he understands something he couldn't see before. Your value was not in how often you were there, but in how you made his life feel when you were. Distance also forces accountability. When you stop filling the gaps, he has to face his role in the relationship. He has to confront whether his effort was enough, whether his actions matched his feelings, whether he showed up the way a man should. Absence removes distractions and exposes truth. And truth is uncomfortable, but it is necessary for growth. Many women are afraid that distance will push a man away permanently. And yes, it will push the wrong man away. But the right man doesn't disappear in absence. He becomes more aware. He becomes more intentional. He starts reaching out not out of boredom, but out of desire. Because now he is not responding to your presence. He is responding to your absence. Feeling your absence is what transforms curiosity into longing, longing into action, action into commitment. A man does not wake up one day deciding to value you more without first experiencing what life feels like without you in it. Distance creates that experience. It forces emotional clarity. It strips away comfort and replaces it with awareness. When a man truly feels your absence, he stops seeing you as a convenience and starts seeing you as a necessity. Not because you begged him to understand, but because silence taught him what words never could. Distance does not break connection, it reveals it. And when absence becomes heavy enough, a man moves differently, speaks differently, and chooses differently because now he knows exactly what he stands to lose. A woman with self-control commands respect. Let me tell you something that changes the way men see women forever. Attraction may open the door, but respect decides whether a man stays. And respect is not built on how much you give, how patient you are, or how much you tolerate. Respect is built on self-control. A woman who can control her emotions, her reactions, and her availability sends a message that no words could ever deliver. She values herself. Many women believe that showing deep emotion, explaining their feelings repeatedly, or fighting for understanding will make a man respect them more. In reality, over-explaining weakens your position. Emotional self-control does not mean suppressing feeling or pretending not to care. It means choosing when and how to express yourself instead of reacting impulsively. Men instinctively respect women who are intentional rather than reactive. A woman who pauses instead of chasing, who observes instead of arguing, and who chooses silence over emotional overflow immediately shifts the power dynamic. Self-control is rare. And because it is rare, it is respected. When a man realizes that you are not controlled by fear of losing him, he starts to fear losing you. He notices that you don't beg for attention, don't demand reassurance, and don't collapse emotionally when things feel uncertain. That stability signals strength. And men are drawn to strength, especially the quiet kind. A woman with self-control does not allow inconsistency to dictate her mood. She doesn't reward confusion with affection. She doesn't overextend when effort is low. She doesn't stay available when she feels disrespected. This doesn't make her cold. It makes her clear. Clarity is deeply attractive because it creates structure, and structure is where respect lives. Men test boundaries often unconsciously. They pull back, delay responses, become inconsistent, or avoid serious conversations. A woman without self-control reacts immediately. She texts more, explains more, gives more. A woman with self-control does the opposite. She pulls her energy inward. She protects her peace. She allows space to reveal intention. And in that space, a man learns how far he can go. When he realizes you will not chase him past your dignity, his respect for you rises. Self-control also communicates that your life does not revolve around his validation. You have purpose, priorities, and self-worth beyond the relationship. A man may enjoy being needed, but he deeply respects being chosen. And he only feels chosen when you demonstrate that you do not need him to feel complete. That independence does not threaten the right man, it inspires him. A woman with self-control understands that not every emotion deserves immediate expression. Not every disappointment requires confrontation. Not every silence requires filling. She allows time to work. She allows actions to speak. And by doing so, she positions herself as a woman who is emotionally mature, not emotionally dependent. Emotional maturity is one of the strongest predictors of long-term commitment in a man's mind. Respect is born when a man sees that you can walk away from what doesn't serve you, not angrily, not dramatically, but calmly. That calm confidence tells him you are not afraid of being alone, and that fearlessness elevates your value. A man does not play with a woman who respects herself because he knows she will remove access without warning if lines are crossed. When a woman has self-control, she doesn't need to demand respect. It shows up naturally. Her silence carries weight. Her presence feels earned. Her boundaries feel real. And a man begins to treat her differently, speak to her differently, and think about her differently. Not because she forced him to, but because her discipline taught him how. In the end, men don't commit to the loudest woman, the most emotional woman, or the most available woman. They commit to the woman whose self-control made them step up. Respect is not asked for, it is commanded. And a woman with self-control commands it effortlessly. Distance separates emotion from attachment. Let me say this clearly, because this is where so many women get confused and end up hurting themselves. Emotion and attachment are not the same thing. They feel similar. They sound similar, but they function very differently. Emotion is how you feel. Attachment is what you cling to. And when attachment takes control, emotion stops being healthy and starts becoming heavy. Distance is what separates the two and restores balance. When a woman is emotionally attached, her peace becomes dependent on a man's behavior. His texts determine her mood. His tone determines her confidence. His availability determines her sense of security. That is not love. That is emotional dependency. And while a man may enjoy being desired, he slowly loses respect for a woman whose emotional stability rests in his hands. Distance interrupts that pattern. It pulls emotion back into a safe space where it belongs within you. A woman who has no distance reacts instead of responds. She feels everything immediately and expresses everything instantly. Every delay feels personal. Every silence feels threatening. Every change feels like rejection. And because she is emotionally flooded, she becomes attached to outcomes instead of aligned with her worth. Distance gives her breathing room. It creates a pause between feeling and acting. And that pause is where power returns. When you step back, you begin to observe instead of assume. You notice patterns instead of excuses. You feel emotions without letting them control your actions. That is emotional maturity. And emotional maturity is deeply attractive because it signals stability. A man may connect emotionally with many women, but he commits to the woman who is emotionally grounded. Attachment makes a woman chase clarity. Distance allows clarity to reveal itself. When you are attached, you try to fix confusion with conversation. When you create distance, confusion either resolves itself through action or exposes the truth. You stop trying to force certainty, and certainty either shows up or fades away. That process protects your heart. Distance also teaches a man something critical. You are not emotionally owned by him. Your feelings exist, but they are not at his mercy. That realization changes how he treats you. Because once a man understands that you will not collapse emotionally without him, he sees you as a woman with standards, not just feelings. Standards create respect. Attachment erodes it. Many women believe that strong emotion equals deep connection. But intense emotion without distance often creates anxiety, not intimacy. Distance softens intensity and strengthens intention. It allows emotion to settle into something calm and sustainable. That calmness is what makes a woman feel safe to a man. And men do not marry chaos, even when they are attracted to it. When distance separates emotion from attachment, a woman stops over-investing prematurely. She stops imagining futures that have not been earned. She stops bonding to potential instead of reality. She allows the relationship to unfold at a pace that reveals truth. That patience protects her from disappointment and positions her as a woman who values alignment over fantasy. Distance also forces a man to engage emotionally without being emotionally catered to. When you are always emotionally available, he consumes your care without contributing his own. Distance shifts that dynamic. He has to feel his emotions without leaning on yours. And in doing so, he either grows closer or drifts away. Both outcomes are information, and information is power. A woman who understands this does not shut her heart down. She simply stops attaching her worth to how someone treats her. She feels deeply but moves wisely. She loves without losing herself. She gives without over-giving. And that balance is rare enough to be respected, rare enough to be valued, rare enough to be chosen. Distance does not kill emotion. It purifies it. It removes fear, anxiety, and desperation from love and replaces them with clarity, self-respect, and peace. And when emotion is no longer tangled with attachment, a woman becomes magnetic. Because now she is not asking a man to fill a void. She is inviting him into a life that is already whole. Distance makes him step into leadership. Let me tell you a truth that challenges everything many women have been taught about relationships. A man does not step into leadership because a woman asks him to. He does not become decisive because she explains her needs better. And he does not rise into his masculine role because she carries the emotional weight for him. A man steps into leadership when he feels responsibility, and responsibility only appears when distance removes the safety net. When a woman is always available, always initiating, always checking in, always smoothing things over, she unknowingly takes on the leadership role herself. She becomes the emotional engine of the relationship. She keeps the connection alive through effort, patience, and reassurance. And while her intentions are loving, the result is imbalance. The man relaxes. He follows instead of leads. He responds instead of initiates, not because he is incapable, but because there is no pressure for him to step up. Distance changes the dynamic immediately. When a woman pulls her energy back, the emotional workload shifts. The man feels the absence of her initiative. The silence forces him to make decisions instead of waiting for direction. He begins to ask himself whether he wants to pursue, invest, and lead, or whether he is comfortable letting the connection fade.